Ugh, there we go. There we go again. Good day, everyone. Today is the 1st of May. Yes, I know. I know what you're about to tell me. Eisen, I got you. I know what day this is. You're not gonna fool me this time because today is the International Workers' Day. It's Labor's Day, right? Wrong. Wrong. You are wrong because today is actually the 314th anniversary of the Act of Union. That's it. This year, this very same year, Scotland betrayed its kin and passed the motion in Parliament to unite with England and form Great Britain. And today, that motion was ratified, the 1st of May. So this is what we are celebrating, I guess, except the Scots, maybe even the Brits, actually. Now, the reason why I am a little bit defeated today, because one of the things we haven't touched yesterday about the new build, the 38511 for the PTR of 9.1, was something I have reiterated for quite a while, which is the fact that we did not know about the Shadowlands Season 2 Affix. We know, of course, Prideful is going away. There is some doom and gloom, there are some doomsayers, and it is open season for Paranoia, because the only thing that was data mined regarding this new affix is this. Defeat the Jailer's forces to gain cool powers. Now let's calm down and look at this logically. We do know that basically the first boss of the new raid, the Sanctum of Domination, is going to be the Taragru, the big guy that chases you if you die too many times in Torghast, which is also why Torghast is no longer going to have a death counter, because the Taragru is dead. We kill him in the raid. Now, if you haven't kept track on the raid testing, the Taragru fight is basically going to be very flavorful, tied to Torghast, because you're going to be able to gain powers, literally anima powers, for the fight with the Taragru. Now, the data mining was able to data mine some of these powers, these anima powers, which are going to be in the raid because of the Taragru fight. You can have very basic things like the Obleron spikes to give you 12% crit, or the talisman to give you 12% mastery, or the winds to give you 12% haste. You can even have the oddly intangible key to reduce the AoE damage you take by 90%, or the overgrowth seeding to give you 100% more armor but increase the cost of your abilities by 30%, etc, etc, etc. A bunch of different anima powers you can gain for the fight. Now, this doesn't matter, of course, because the Taragru is the first boss, so it's just gonna fall. It's gonna be puggable within a week. Nobody's gonna care about this one, but the fear is, of course, related to the new string added related to Mythic Plus. The fact that the Shadowlands Season 2 Affix has been given this description by Blizzard, which is to defeat the Jailer's forces to gain cool powers. Now, where exactly do you defeat the Jailer's forces to gain cool powers? In which other place does this happen? Well, Torghast. That's where it happens. So there seemingly is a pretty clear correlation between the two. Add to this the fact that the Taragru is going to be a boss encounter which also has anima powers, so the fact that Blizzard is now officially bringing anima powers to grouped PvE environments, in this case the raid, it might make you think that there is the possibility that the Shadowlands Season 2 affix for Mythic Plus is going to be some sort of anima powers. Now, we do know that very often this type of affixes, the ones that repeat themselves throughout the dungeon, are going to happen in tranches, are going to happen in slices, 20, 40, 60, 80%, and then 100%, unless it is something like Beguiling, which is spread throughout the dungeon, or something like Infested, the first of the affixes from Mythic Plus in BFA. It happens throughout the dungeon, or you can have the ones that happen in tranches. So we don't know exactly which one of this is going to be. Now, in case you are confused and you're wondering, but Eisen, I thought if there is one thing that I think is cool from Torghast is the powers. The fact that you can sometimes get, wild builds, completely overpowered, broken, or using abilities that you didn't even use before normally that get super buffed, etc, etc. That was kind of the cool part of Torghast, right? So if it happens in Mythic Plus, then isn't it nice? Yes. The real problem that people are having is related to a three-letter word, a three-letter acronym, which people don't like too much when it comes to competitive environments, which is called RNG. That is what people are fearing. The fact that, just as you know, anima powers can be very OP. They are supposed to be OP in Torghast. What's going to happen with the balancing of Mythic Plus? Because Mythic Plus is pretty competitive. Without even having to go to the very, very, very high end MDI, and whichever other tournaments are getting added, like the Great Push, which is going to happen in May, this month, even to the lower bracket of players. The more, the more casual, the more average bracket of players, which is going to make up 99% of the player base of Mythic Plus. Even if you're trying to clear a plus 18 or a plus 19 or a plus 20, if you happen to get gated by bad RNG, that's gonna feel kind of frustrating, because you want this OP Anima power for Mythic Plus and it doesn't drop, it doesn't come up, so you end up having a shit run with shit powers, right? That's when it feels bad. So this is the current issue that is happening right now because of this tiny, minor description put in a string for the PTR. Pretty bad by Blizzard, honestly. They shouldn't have done this, because then people notice it and they start freaking out. There are some possibilities as to what exactly could happen with this type of affix. Blizzard could go the absolute disaster way, which is the random elites spread throughout the dungeon, which are going to give you a cool power if you defeat them, and they rotate every week. Basically, imagine something like Inspiring, except instead of being an inspired mob, it's a mob that's gonna drop you a power. That's how it is. Or they could do something like teaming. Wow. They add some of the Jailer's forces to the packs, and you know that if you kill those packs, those are the packs that are gonna give you the powers, because they have the Jailer's forces in them. If you have fixed spawn points, but the type of mobs are going to rotate throughout these spawn points, it's going to be kind of annoying because you have to memorize a different path, a different route every week. So even worse, of course, surprise for tanks who have to keep track of all of that. If instead the mobs are the ones who always stay in place, so you don't have to memorize a different route every time, because the same mobs are always going to be in the same place, it means that some of the powers are never going to be taken. Because if your route never changes, then there is no point in putting a power left, a power right, a power down or up. If you just go the same way every time in your route, many of the powers would just never be used, seen, or checked at all. It would seem like the best possible solution is to make it percentage based. So sort of like a prideful spawn, except it's a bunch of jailer forces. It would also give you a nice little change, because prideful was very single target focused, whereas jailer forces could be more AoE focused. The mobs are gonna spawn, you defeat them, and you get the powers. Regardless of the way in which Blizzard will approach this, the only thing that's gonna matter in the end is going to be what type of powers are you getting exactly. And more importantly, what people will care the most is, are they going to be always the same? So maybe you offer 3 powers, or maybe 5. We have seen in Torghast during the Beasts of Prodigum events that you can get up to 5 options, 5 offers quite reliably in Torghast as well. So we do have the technology to offer you 5 options for the powers, so you might make it so that it is going to be fixed. Always offer the same 5 powers and divide them for healers, for tanks, for range DPS, and for melee DPS, and they are always the same. Because you already know, you can already tell what is going to happen if these powers are not going to be always the same. They are going to vary. One guy gets the OP power, the other 2 DPS do not, and then you have to run the rest of the key with this guy doing much more damage than you, and you know you can't do anything about it. I know there are some level-headed people who say, I don't give a shit about doing top damage in a Mythic Plus key. I'm fine doing less damage than someone else, just as long as we get to have a smooth run without any problems. But you would be surprised. There are people who even get triggered if someone gobbles up the spears or the orbs in Mythic Plus for the Necrotic Wake, because they want them for themselves to do top damage in the key. Imagine if this was the same thing for every single key in Mythic Plus. Except this time is completely RNG, because it's up to the type of powers you are receiving from this affix. So yeah, I have been enjoying very much the doomsaying that this tiny little innocent line of text has caused, and I guess we will have to wait for any more additions from Blizzard in Mythic Plus for the PTR version of 9.1, because we still have nothing yet for Mythic Plus when it comes to the new season. Now, on to another note. We are going to close on an alt-friendly note. Because Blizzard is adding more skips, this is something, even if you started playing just in BFA, you should be more accustomed to, because this is going to be the catch-up mechanisms that are going to come in every patch. Every time Blizzard adds new content, generally speaking, they will add some sort of shortcut to let you experience the new content, which makes sense, right? If they want people to get excited for 9.1, they don't want them to come into the game and know they have to grind for 10, 20, or 30 hours previous content before they can get to 9.1. Because this way, by the time you get to 9.2 or 9.3, What are you supposed to do? Grind 9.0 and then grind 9.1 and then go to 9.2 eventually? They have to bring in some sort of catch-up mechanism. The catch-up mechanism in question is going to be just a skip. Very simple, very crude, you might even say. When you go and talk to Bolvar, Dragon, which is one of the main quest giver for your main storyline of the expansion so far, you're gonna have two options for skips. One, you can tell Bolvar that you have already been to Torghast and met the Rune Carver, which is going to allow you to skip and finish the Torghast chapter and just unlock Torghast and Venari and the Rune Carver. So you don't have to go to those test runs into Torghast to free Jaina, to free Thrall, to look for Anduin, etc, etc, etc. And then you have the second dialogue option, which is where you tell him that you already learned of Anduin's fate. So you can skip ahead to the Anduin, betrayal, Anduin's corruption, to begin the Chains of Domination quests. The TLDR of this is that you're basically going to be skipping about a dozen quests from the moment you talk to Bolvar, and then it sends you into Torghast, it sends you to rescue all of the main characters from Bane to Jaina to Thrall, blah blah blah. You look for Anduin, Anduin isn't there, so you try to use the Helm of Domination to look into Torghast, and that's the end of the quest line. The negative side, I guess, if you don't want to do any of this, you're gonna be missing out on 1,000 Soul Ash, because that's the reward you get for doing this quest chain. So if you do need quick Soul Ash, very quick Soul Ash, you have to do this entire quest chain still. The other skip, this is a skip I don't recommend unless you don't care at all about Anima, which I now realize is probably most people, but still. The second skip is available after you defeat the Natrius. Now, if you have an alt in a guild with a group of friends and you routinely can kill the Natrius, you can just do it very quickly. Otherwise, the price to pay for starting this quest chain is to do the LFR version, so defeat the Natrius in LFR. The quest chain isn't even a quest chain, it's just a handful of quests which all happen in Oribos, where you have the map with the zones where you have all of the main characters sitting in, and it takes you literally 2 minutes. It's just talking, dialogue, mini cutscene, that's it. That's the 5 quests. The reason why I said you shouldn't skip it if you care about Anima, because, as I mentioned, it takes very little and it gives you 2,500 Anima as a reward. So if you can defeat the Natrius very quickly, or if you have an unreasonable amount of faith in the LFR system and you think you can defeat the Natrius in LFR very quickly, then you should do it, because it's literally just 2,000 free Anima for you. But nevertheless, it is still offered to you as a skip option if you want to. Now, important to remember, though, that these skips for 9.1, since I mentioned catch-up mechanisms to be able to get into the new patch very quickly, these are still just for your alts, not for new players. Because both of these skips are still only available if you have this unlocked on a different character of your same account. So you have to have gotten to the content before on a different character, so you have to have done the entire thing on your main, or one of your mains or whatever, before you can use the skip. So if you're a new character that dings level 60, you still have to do the main content, you still have to do the main storyline. Blizzard likely is thinking, okay, sure, catch-up mechanisms, but the release of the expansion wasn't that long ago. It's still a little bit too early to allow completely new players to start skipping our content. It's still early enough in the expansion that, at least for the first major content patch, you can go back and do the previous content. Maybe, probably, by 9.2 is when they will start adding actual complete skips from the start of the expansion, because it's going to be very likely more than a year when 9.2 comes out since the release of the expansion, so that's when they will probably go into more major skips. For now, this is just alt related. So in the end, getting into 9.1 for alts has been made very quick. All you have to do is get to your main covenant, do the introductory quest lines for your covenant, the one that you chose, and once the main guy in your covenant tells you to go to Bolvar, that's it. You can start the skip and get into 9.1 content. Good help for all of the people thinking about re-rolling. Good help for all of the people, starting to keep an eye out on balance changing, balance tuning, and some sort of predictions and bold calls about which specs are going to be powerful, and this is just going to help anyone looking into re-rolling and picking up a new character, or a character they started leveling up, maybe even bringing to max level, but then gave up halfway through because they were like, nah, there is no hope for this guy, I'm gonna play something else. Now maybe you can dust it off much more quickly and easily. So these two were the two main articles of discussions for today. the ominous line of text, foreboding a possible Anima Power addition to Mythic Plus as an affix, as well as the catch-up mechanisms and alt friendliness additions for 9.1 to reach 9.1 content on your alts more quickly. So, thank you for watching the video. If you want to support this channel, you should subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, then you should, at the very least. Tell me in the comments, what do you think Blizzard is going to do with this line of text for the Shadowlands Season 2 affix? What could it possibly mean to gain cool powers when you defeat Jailer's forces in a Mythic Plus key? So let's test your game designer skills. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, I hope they just do it. I hope they just say, fuck it, here's Anima Powers in Mythic Plus, have fun. Oh man, so much triggering going around.